Hello, everyone. We'll let everyone trickle in here and get connected, and then we'll get started. Welcome to the Last Week in Mortgage. Today, I am not Faith Howard Mooney. I'm Ashley Alexander. I'm the Senior Member Benefits Advocate here at TMC. Filling in for Faith so she can have a much needed day off to rest and recoup. And so I am super excited to be joined by two friends within the network today, Jaime Frederes, who is the SVP Residential Lending Officer at New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp., and Don Martin, the VP of Residential Fulfillment at New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp. Guys, thanks for joining me today. And I'll kick it over to you just to kind of share a little bit about New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp. And what you guys are doing there.
Okay, I guess I'll take the front and I'll throw it to Don here in a minute. And so Ashley, wonderful to be working together again, and thank you for inviting us to be here on your inaugural kickoff of this event. As Ashley mentioned, my name is Jaime Frederes. I'm the Senior VP, Residential Lending Officer for New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp. New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp is actually a shared services holding company for three major brand banks in the state of New Hampshire. Meredith Village Savings Bank, Merrimack County Savings Bank, and Savings Bank of Walpole. In addition, New Hampshire Trust, which is a wealth management company. Together, assets totaling close to $5 billion. We have about 26 different independent branching locations, and we have an origination staff of about I think about 27 MLOs at this point, and we oversee all the residential lending production strategy and initiatives for the three banks. I'll let Dawn introduce herself and what she does for the organization.
So, hi, thank you. Dawn Martin, and I am with New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp at this time. I started with Savings Bank of Walpole. We were the last affiliate to join. Been there just over 30 years. It's been amazing to be part of this alliance. And what I do is I oversee the fulfillment area. So that's basically the processing, closing, quality control. So we take the application from the MLO and we get it across the finish line. Responsible for the customer experience, making sure that, we're doing everything we can to support our MLOs and make them shine.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here and doing this with us. Very unique model at New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp. I know Jaime and I have talked about that. And so if there's anyone else out there that has a model like Jaime and Don's, I know that's a great connection, offline that Jaime would love to make. So
I'll add it's a mutual banking entity, and we were early in the design of the model, and there is a gaining popularity of holding companies and banks merging together to leverage the collective strength. So yeah, would welcome any opportunities for anyone else going through the same.
Awesome. And guys, don't be shy. Feel free as we talk today to drop questions in the chat for Jaime and Don, and share in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you guys. But let's go ahead and jump into the headlines from last week. Not much happened last week at all. There may have been some headlines. Obviously with the election, coming to a close last week, things have, rates have gone up, and there's been some volatility in the bond market, causing those rates to go up. With all that in mind, Jaime, Don, what do you think we will see for the end of this year going into next year with new leadership on the horizon? How are you talking to your sales staff and your sales leaders in regards to maybe possibly an extended higher rate environment?
Okay. Well, I'll jump in here right away. Yeah, it certainly was not a boring week for headlines last week. But as it goes into interest rates, a lot of interest rates, the interest rate market was on the move prior to the election. In fact, I think it was just prior to the Fed's raising the federal funds rate back in September. We were experiencing interest rates, 30-year fixed rates through the GSEs, pretty close to 6%. And I think the narrative is that if the Fed drops rates, we'll go into a refinance run. Well, almost immediately after that, rates popped, and they ran right back up to pretty close to the high sixes and sevens again. I'd love to say that optimistically that we're going to have, we're going to go into a refinance rally in the near future. But I've learned after 30 plus years in the business to stay out of the prediction business because there's just so many different influential markets. Certainly with new leadership, we're going to have to take a look at it. It's going to probably put some pressure on some of the early predictions where we thought interest rates were going to go. Although MBA released at the end of October a very, very flat interest rate curve. They predicted towards the end of 2025, best case scenario, interest rates make it down to 5.9. So we're looking at a very half point to 5/8 of a point spread in there. They also predicted refinance volume it doesn't look like it's going to take off through a lot of the predictions. So I think we're in a wait and see. Certainly, the economic moves of tariffs and inflation as a result will have a big impact on it. We're going to Chairman Powell and the relationship he's going to have with President-elect Trump will also be an interesting thing to watch. So, I mean, my best advice is stay out of the prediction business and look for opportunity based on the interest rates we have today.
Stay in the moment. I like it. Don,
Yes.
you have anything you'd like to add to that?
He took the words right out of my mouth. I told Jamie that was going to be his topic to handle.
Awesome.
Yeah, as far as what we're communicating to the teams, it's we advise our LOs to stay out of the prediction business. Nothing as a leader. The one thing that always gets me is when we become the Warren Buffetts of mortgage interest rates, and we start posting articles. Rates are going to drop in the spring. Rates are going to be lower, next year, and we're empowering the general public to wait and see. And I think none of us can afford the wait and see approach. So, I think we need to take a look at every home purchaser and every restructure, refinance based on the merits of what they need to get done and present our best possible scenarios, with the interest rate structures we have today.
Sure. Yeah. Control what you can control, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I love that, mindset, and I think it's a positive one to move forward with. So, appreciate that, Jamie. I'm curious, based on that, how do you think this will affect new home starts, in the current rate environment? I was reading an article, it said construction accounted for 28% of the housing inventory, which is a little bit down from 2022. But despite that, new homes are still making a higher portion of the U.S. Housing inventory than before the pandemic. Just curious, in your guys' market, construction lending and new home starts, what that looks like for you guys.
I'll kind of jump on this one a little bit too and let Don talk as well. New home starts, new construction is an important part of our housing stock. We're all suffering from the golden handcuffs of interest rates that are sub 3 and sub 4, where people aren't due to the affordability of their next purchase or the preferential financing they have right now. They're not selling. They're not listing their property unless this is a dire situation. So we need new construction. We need it to go. I think home affordability is probably the biggest driver. With interest rates high in the 6s and 7s, along with the cost, material cost, which is stabilized and in some cases come down from the pandemic, it still costs a lot to build a home. So psychologically and affordability, I think as we begin to move down into low 6s and potentially interest rates that start with a 5, we'll see a resurgence in not only people listing and selling, but I think our new construction trade as well.
I agree. We're starting to see a little bit pop in Ohio in new construction, and just hoping that continues. We actually have a a neighborhood going in not too far from me, which I was joking with Melissa Lingdale, our COO, earlier. I hit a deer last week, and I think it's pushing the animal population kind of out, and I've seen a lot more deer as of recent. So, um, but um, appreciate that and appreciate your comments around affordability. Kind of going into our next topic, one of the headlines that I read again this week is average age of the first-time home buyer is at an all-time high at 38 years old. Is that number surprise you guys?
It surprised me. I mean, I knew the age was rising and it makes perfect sense. Um, house prices are so high, rates are high, rent is high. Just even saving for a down payment is a challenge. But 38 still surprised me. I mean, I bought my first house at 24.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that was a little bit of an eye opener and definitely an older age than I had anticipated.
Yeah, I was surprised by it too. It makes sense with home affordability, and as first-time home buyers mature in their jobs and their earnings go up, I think there's a balance between the affordability and when is the right time. Um, I think in all of our markets the cost of rents went up, and so that they'll be balancing the rental versus the purchasing most definitely.
In regards to that, what are you guys doing unique or different? This
Is it me or did it actually
I
freeze?
think we lost Ashley.
All right. I think the question was, what are we doing um, for first-time home buyers and
Mhm.
affordability? We are, at New Hampshire Mutual Bank Corp and our respective, we do have the luxury of lending out of our portfolio, and we're looking at those creative solutions, partnering with different MI companies, partnering with different down payment associations and not-for-profit housing groups that we can work in conjunction with to create an affordable option for homeowners. It's interest rate and purchase price driven, most definitely, but we're looking at different creative and responsible ways to help our first-time home buyers get into markets. Also, inventory is a big thing. I made the comment earlier where we have people who aren't doing the moves right now. We have to look at any and all opportunities to help them win a bid in a new home situation as these listings come on the marketplace.
Yeah, and for the last couple of years, they've been competing against cash buyers willing to pay
Mhm.
over and above the price. Seasoned buyers who maybe it's their second home, so they've already got, they've got equity perhaps in their first home that they're tapping into. So it's
Mhm.
tough for first time home buyers.
Yeah. And costs are up. I think one of the headlines we saw as well, Dawn, maybe you want to tackle this one. The mortgage industry is full of acronyms. FICO is one of them. And
Mm.
then lately that could be the F word in mortgage lending. So as you've been looking at FICO, Dom, and head of fulfillment here, what are you seeing as far as the costs associated with that?
So credit costs just keep going up, and up. So FICO is now raising their cost, and it's their warehouse cost or their wholesale cost, I should say, from 350 to 495 per score. So that's a 40% increase. It's also the third increase in as many years.
Mhm.
So they defend that by saying it's still such a nominal part of the credit report. But that's not really a great approach for selling a price increase and continuous price increases. And that is not the price that banks are going to pay because the credit reporting agencies, FICO doesn't control what they're going to charge. So we're already looking at credit costs. An individual credit report, that's running $75 to $80 now, with joint being double that. I mean, that is a significant cost to the consumer. It's a significant cost to the banks as well. Particularly when you look at loans that end up not going through, denials, withdrawn, preliminary approvals. I mean, our bank there's a lot of costs there. I'm sure that's the same for so many other banks. And at the end of the day, it's a lot that's going to get passed on to the consumer again. Uh, s- And this is probably, I did read something else where they're predicting that next year there's going to be another increase that would put it probably over 550 per
Mhm.
score. So,
Yeah, no, it's definitely, we're seeing a lot of movement, and it's on the heels too of a lot of the administration, the soon to be passed administration's focus on junk fees with the CFPB,
Yep.
because junk fees also loop in necessary fees as well. And I know I sit as the chair for the New Hampshire Bankers Association Residential Lending Committee. These are topics that are getting a lot of airplay. Besides the higher interest rates and home affordability with home prices, the cost of obtaining it's getting a lot of attention from a lot of different groups in here. So we're hoping this is going to be engaged on as far as the true costs, as well as others associated with obtaining a mortgage.
Sorry guys about that for falling off for a second, but thanks for jumping in and continuing the
It's
conversation
okay.
there. Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping, this is a conversation we continue to hear about, and, that people can be active with their voice, around things there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think one of the biggest things that we got to be careful of as an entity is as we look to contain costs for our customers and ourselves here, that we don't start short circuiting, pulling full and complete credit profiles in preliminary approvals or pre-quals, because we want to make sure that we're also putting confidence out there that we've vetted all the credit related issues ahead of time, so that when someone does enter into a purchase and sale agreement and follows through with a mortgage, there are no surprises. So I think it's a balance of cost savings as well as making sure that we're doing our due diligence as early as possible.
absolutely. Another topic that I scrolled through was cash out lending currently. Um, and I read an article that says we're seeing a bump in cash out lending, and homeowners are sitting on a record amount of equity in their homes. And over the past month, they have cautiously started tapping into that based on national data. Though the third quarter saw a bump in cash out lending, it's still at about half of what we would expect in a normal environment. Was curious if you guys are seeing a bump in cash out lending at your institution.
we have actually not seen a bump yet. We've seen a slight decrease from second to third quarter. I mean, that being said, cash out refis are still 50% of our originations year to date. So it's a significant number, but it's definitely down.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, we're down 20% from last year and 40% from 2022. But borrowers are certainly very reactive to rate,
yep,
even slight rate changes, with prime coming down a little bit, particularly with equity lending.
yeah,
We think we will start seeing, I'm not sure this time of year, but probably January, hopefully, we'll start seeing an increase in that, because there is a lot of untapped equity right now. And I think as people watch the market, watch the rates, and optimism perhaps starts to increase, they'll start
yeah.
tapping into that equity.
Looks like we did get a question in the chat from Bernard. He's asked, how is the insurance market affecting housing in New Hampshire? There was a record rainfall in August snow. Did that have any impact?
That's a good question. Not noticeably. I mean, insurance costs have gone up across the board in general, but we have not seen any prohibitive spikes at this point, unlike some of the southern states and the states who are impacted by heavier weather patterns. I think the rising cost of insurance is just exacerbating the home affordability.
Yeah,
We talk about home prices, we also talk about interest rates, but just as detrimental are the rising property tax rates that we're experiencing, as well as the contributory insurance. So all if you take a look at PITI, all four major buckets have really led to some of the affordability challenges with owning a home right now.
that's definitely impacting. I know taxes rose around here where I live, and have many friends who were very concerned about what their mortgage payment was going to look like with their escrows built in.
Mhm.
And you know, definitely impactful, especially with inflation currently. So um home prices, Jamie, you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but we've seen an article I read through. So growth in home prices is slowing in most markets, down from 89% in the second quarter to 87%. Are
Mhm.
you guys seeing that home prices coming down a little bit in your area?
As a state, yeah, I think so. We're up right now. Our single family medium sales price through October of this year for year to date is 515,000. You take a look at going back 10 years, it was close to 225,000. So we've seen enormous growth in our medium home prices. Last month in October, we had a month of 507.50. So you could say last month actually kind of put some negative pressure on the rising appreciation that we're experiencing. But there are many counties and areas throughout New Hampshire that are still on the rise. So we haven't really been impacted by some of the reversal in home prices as some of the other isolations around the United States. As a mortgage lender, so you get excited, right? Home prices cost more, mortgages are more. Typically, we're variable comped on the price of a mortgage. But I don't think there's anyone that would really be upset that if there was a moderate pullback, it created some opportunity for people to buy homes, but it also could create some opportunity for people to be nervous about selling their home and look to list their home to put it on the market. So, in my role and certainly Dawn's role and a few other people, our biggest concern on the pullback right now is exposure. Credit deterioration is still a concern with jobs and affordability. Any significant pullbacks in home prices could have some challenges when the credit deterioration starts to kick in there. We haven't had the word short sale in a long, long, long time, and hope we don't have to ever bring it back. Other than it's a short period of time to sell the house. Um, but um, I think we've got to keep
Think
our
we're
eyes
seeing.
on it, and I think portfolio lenders got to be mindful of their lending policies in regards to high LTV lending in the environment we're in right now.
Sure. Yeah. Don,
Dawn, I don't know
anything
if
you
you
want
share
to add?
anything else you might share on that, Dawn.
No, not really. Like you said, I think in this area the prices might be stabilizing somewhat, but certainly have not been decreasing as we have seen in other areas. And I think that happens in our area. We seem to be a little bit like behind some of the trends. They hit us a little bit later, so it'll be interesting to see what the next couple of months brings. But again, to Jamie's point, you don't want stable would be good, but you do have your credit, your credit quality and equity issues and
Yep.
LTVs. So you wouldn't want to see too much of a pullback on those values.
I
The
see it.
other thing that I'm watching, and this wasn't part of the script here, so I'm going off script, Ashley.
Go for it.
Um,
Mhm.
there's a big movement going on in corporate America right now in return to office. New
Mm.
Hampshire is a huge migration destination for Boston, Massachusetts, Connecticut, even New York. And we certainly saw a lot of people when they during the pandemic where there was an opportunity to remote work, take advantage of real estate, and the lifestyle up in New Hampshire. Now we're seeing, companies like Dell, Amazon, Chase Bank, a number of different national organizations and mid-regionals begin to say, okay, hey, we need to come back to the office. We need to come back 3 days a week. In some cases, the previous companies, 5 days a week. So it's also going to be interesting to see what that does on home prices as people who purchase with the expectation of working in New Hampshire full time are now required to go back part time or full time back to the office. I'm sure there's a lot of other areas around the nation where that took place, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, for sure. I think it could definitely play out in a lot of other states as well. So be interesting to see how things
Mhm.
move over the next few months. Um, Nick dropped a question in the chat. He said, New
I
Hampshire
was laughing about that. Unique
Hey.
us? Unique properties?
notoriously known for their unique properties. I was actually thinking that in my head, the different types of properties that are out there right now. How are you dealing with such properties, especially with dealing on balancing portfolio?
I'll take that one. As I made the comment earlier that as a mutual bank, we're also fairly prolific in the portfolio lending space, which has given us an opportunity to work with unique properties and different creative products. Certainly, there's been a lot of headwinds over the last year or two regarding loan to deposit ratios and some for the industry as assets have been shifting around. I think we have the ability in New Hampshire to take a look at our large deposit base, and we take a look at the opportunities, and we try to make good lending decisions on some of the unique properties that are in the area. And understanding that in our footprint as a mutual bank, we're here to serve our stakeholders, which are our community is our customer base. And so we continue to lend in the unique property space. I think we'd love to do more of it, but we also need to take a look at the properties as standalone entities and be a little bit more selective in that unique space than possibly years gone by.
Sure. I'm curious, what kind of properties are you seeing pop up in your area, Jamie?
Most of them just don't pop up. Most of them have been around for many hundred years.
Yeah.
For some reason, yeah,
in Vermont?
yeah.
Okay.
We see a lot of properties where there's been a house that added onto the barn, that added onto another house, that added another barn, that long different things. New Hampshire, is beautiful it is, lacks some of the infrastructure of some of the more different states, sewers and septics and water supplies. So we see different things with water sources and different septic and sewer systems. I can't put my finger on one particular unique style. Just unique.
Yeah.
There are just when I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and just when I think I've seen it all, this afternoon one of the MLOs will bring a unique property that I haven't seen.
Well, I guess that keeps things interesting for you, Jamie. Not a dull moment. So, well, I would like to end maybe on a little slightly more light note. Was curious, in the month of November, obviously Thanksgiving's coming along, and it's good to remind yourself what you're thankful for. And I was curious, is there a partnership out there that you would say you're most thankful for this year within the industry that you might want to give a shout out to?
I'll take this one.
Yeah, Don,
TMC.
monopolizing.
Oh. TMC. This has been an amazing partnership. When Jamie joined us and talked about TMC and was able to get us back, not us, but get us back into it for him. It was amazing. And I will say, if you need something done, just call Ashley, because, if you need an email, a contact, anything, it happens within moments. And it's just been, I've joined so many calls and sitting on some working sessions. So I am very thankful for this partnership and looking forward to the next several years of it, seeing what else I learn.
Well, thank you, Don. I appreciate that. I was not looking for a plug for TMC,
nope,
but really,
you didn't have to. You didn't have to. It was a no-brainer. It's been really fantastic.
Jamie, I certainly echo Don's comments there. But I think listen, I've got a lot of great friends who are vendors of the bank that I appreciate. But I also appreciate just being able to pick up the phone and network with other professionals and just work through some of the headwinds we're all dealing with. Those are the most valuable relationships I have out there, and friendships.
Awesome. Well, I am super thankful for both of you guys. I appreciate everything you guys give to the network because I do know that the value is found in our lender members and our partners who jump in to share resources and be that phone call away, Jamie, that you mentioned. So I am super grateful for both of you guys, to be able to jump in and participate in that way. Last thing I'll end on is with Thanksgiving right around the corner, what's your favorite thing to find on the table when you sit down for Thanksgiving?
Listen, I jump right to dessert. I got a sweet tooth, so my mother-in-law is coming down and spending, and she shows up, and she shows up with the sweet stuff. So the pies will be flowing.
Is there a favorite pie or just all
I'm
the pies?
traditional. Traditional. I'm a pumpkin pie guy.
Okay. My
I
girls
don't have
love
a sweet tooth. And I've never been able to even try pumpkin pie because I have a weird texture thing. So that's off my plate. But oddly enough, I love mashed potatoes, and that's probably the same texture.
Oh, yeah. Mashed potatoes for sure. Sarah was agreeing with you in the chat. She
Yep.
said mashed potatoes.
All the carbs,
Oh,
yes.
awesome. Well, I hope you and your families have an awesome Thanksgiving. Again, appreciate you guys doing this with me today. Thankful for you and thankful for everyone who is listening. I did want to drop real quick for anyone who wants to finish the year out with us. We would love for you to join us for 12 days coming up right after Thanksgiving. The link is in the chat in regards to registration. And I do know that both Jamie and Don will be joining us there as well. So come engage with them and, help us close out the year in just a really fun and contentful way. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you
Awesome.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.